Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are on this globe at this moment. Welcome to Naya Daya Analytics webinar. Today, our topic is from employee to customer experience, how managing people impact during change fuels business growth. We have participants from over 20 countries on these webinars, so we are very delighted to see that happening. My name is Maria Kaustoturner, and I am from Naya Daya Analytics, and today our CEO Petri Järvinen will guide us through the presentation. The floor is yours, Petri.
Thank you, Maria. Happy to be here, and thanks for everybody joining the call. So let's get started. Before starting with our main topic today, I'll mention briefly our product, People Impact Analytics. It's an AI-based people analytics solution which is addressing business transformations. I will talk about some great use cases later in this presentation. Our solution is deeply founded on emotion behavior science developed in the University of Geneva in Switzerland. With our analytics, we help our clients to identify and mitigate people risks during the change. Most importantly, this is about avoiding people turnover and productivity loss. The other side of the coin is that we also promote good engaging change, engaging the people to drive a successful transformation. During this presentation, we will explore how business transformations impact the employee experience, or EX, and then indirectly also the client experience, or CX. I will also share a point of view how emotion behavior science and AI together are great tools to drive successful change and avoid or mitigate risks. I will be pulling some practical examples from our solution domain and showing some real data from our client cases, which would be interesting with full anonymity, of course. Now, this is the big picture that we will be looking at today. There's a few important elements here. How any business change kicks off a chain of events, which will ultimately, inevitably, have a significant change to your business outcomes, most notably business growth and profitability. And how it is through employees' emotional responses and their impact to behavior, how the change creates people-related opportunities and risks, and how the employee experience will impact the customer experience, not as the only factor, but having significant consequences nevertheless. And what's the best way to make all of this a success? It's of course acting in the early stage by planning and preparing the transformation well. But your plans are never perfect. You have limited time and resources, and surprises will happen. The good news is that by measuring and understanding the employees' emotional responses, you can quickly intervene to what's happening, understanding if you are on a good track, you correct the course, mitigate the risks, and seize the opportunities. We will be talking all about this today. Now, just to be clear, it's been well known for a long time that employee experience impacts the customer experience as well. As a point of evidence, I'm including a famous quote here, which makes this crystal clear. However, I think that in general, this knowledge is not well translated into practice in terms of KPIs, processes, and tools. So my angle today is that, first of all, it's in business transformations more than anywhere else, where both EX and CX are impacted. And secondly, you can use emotion behavior science to intervene in the early stages of this process, to understand the risks and opportunities and to act accordingly. And thirdly, we do have a practical tool for managing all that, as I have mentioned. We are now in a really good position having modern tools, including better science and AI, to improve the EX and CX, and hence the business outcomes like growth and profitability. How does it all begin? Let's start by looking at the source, the business transformation, which kicks off all the wonderful and frightening consequences. It's easy to recognize a lot of use cases where the business is changing and the change is causing the employees, quite right, to have emotional responses. Down the line, this is the source of both risks and opportunities for the business. Some of you know that we have a specific focus on M&A integrations as our company, and that is true, but we also use our analytics very successfully for other business transformations as well. So here I am listing 8 use cases as some great examples. First of all, in M&A integrations and organizational restructuring, the impacted people, they will likely have their roles, goals, even their immediate teams change. They often fear for their jobs or aspire for new career possibilities. Digital transformations and receiving investment have more to do with setting a new, more aspirational mindset. This will likely require new skills, create competition, and can cause anxiety or positive expectations. People may again be afraid of their employment or foresee new opportunities ahead. And then post-crisis recovery, for example, rebuilding the business after significant layoffs and also adapting to market disruptions, they are more about recovering from something difficult. But the struggles are also a great seed for doing much better in the future, building something wonderful. You should at the same time calm down the people, keep them functional, while motivating to innovate. Different people will likely move on this journey at a different pace. And then leadership change and revitalizing the company values or strategy are more about changing how we work together as a team. These changes may raise hopes and expectations, concerns, or even resistance or indifference in some cases, which is not good for the teams either. The key thing is to engage and motivate the people by showing the great future and everyone's place in it. What is common for the use cases is that they are doors which can lead to either very good or very unfortunate destinations. The opportunity here is to understand the employee's point of view, to correct your course, fix the issues, enable the people, leading to successful change and achieving or exceeding the business goals. While the risk here, what we all see too often realize, is high employee turnover and productivity collapse, resistance to change that will disrupt your change, cause significant losses, cause human suffering, and certainly impact negatively your business results. Later in this session, we'll try to put a price tag for this. So we have all the good reasons to listen to the people during the transformation and act accordingly. The emotions are a good practical tool for that, and that's what we are going to talk about next. So let's talk about emotions briefly. What's common for the use cases on the previous page is that they are all creating an episodic feeling in the employees' hearts and minds that this change is relevant and significant for me, my needs, my goals, values, and my well-being, and I should probably act somehow to either leverage or resist the change, so much that it causes even some immediate physical responses. For example, what's happening can make me smile or my heart rate may go up and so on. This is indeed the scientific definition of an emotion. And it's a science-supported fact that these emotions have an impact to one's behavior. When we encounter something which is likely to have an impact to us, we will very quickly, automatically assess the situation and form some kind of response pattern or readiness, which will prepare us to act on a suitable way. The evolution has developed us those abilities during millions of years. Those emotion behavior processes kept us alive on the savanna and through the history, and the modern human is applying those same processes in a modern personal and work environments, such as simply meetings or when fighting for your salary and career, or when engaging in social media, and indeed when finding your way forward in the wheels of a business transformation. Sometimes the emotions serve as well, often not so ideally, and we often have difficulties resisting the urge to behave according to our emotions. Although emotions may feel messy, we can certainly understand them with proper framework and tools. Our own solutions, the People Impact Analytics solution, is heavily based on research conducted in University of Geneva. A member of the research group is also a member of our team. We are talking about highly appreciated theoretical and empirical research which has taken years and engaged teams in tens of countries. This is multicultural, multilingual research. Also, it's interesting to know that animals, to varying extent, they have and they express similar emotions. So it is through the science that we can understand the whole human emotion space through well-defined emotion families that you can see here in this picture. In practical tools, the set of 20 to 24 emotions is usually used. So in our People Impact Analytics tool, we survey emotional employees' responses through a very simple online form with only 3 questions. Time to look at the real data. So I'm showing here some real-world aggregated high-level KPIs from our People Impact Analytics solution. This is real average data which is calculated across a few selected real client cases with full anonymity, of course. So here you can see the average emotional responses to business changes. These sample cases are measured in an early stage of the transformations. The emotion distribution on the left shows, based on the emotion behavioral science, how people in these use cases are experiencing the change. As usual, in the early days, there is a lot of interest, which is a very positive, engaging emotion. The interest usually relates to career opportunities and competence development and willingness to leverage the new situation to engage with new teams, new clients, new projects, and so on. This is great, as interest has the power to make people committed to the change and driving the change. But you should know that a lot of that interest is going to transform into other emotions along the way. In a successful change, it can transform into other positive emotions such as joy, pleasure, and pride, for example, which will then continue building the change and driving the business. But all too often, the interest may melt and turn into disappointment or sadness, which truly indicate lost opportunities. So when you do see the high interest, you need to act and make it a path to positive outcomes. In the middle here, fear is also a typical emotion seen in the early days of the business change. It's kind of the negative counterpart to interest, where people don't know what will happen, but in case of fear, they are expecting the worst. People are afraid for their employment or career development or collapsing herd community, for example. And then on the right, the 2 high-level KPIs are showing average values across the same set of real client cases. First of all, people risk level is again based on emotion behavioral science. The scientific algorithm that we have created works in 3 dimensions and produces a single number between 0 and 100. The bigger the number, the bigger people risks you have in your transformation. The people risk landscape often varies greatly from team to team, so it's important to calculate and look at the KPIs separately for each group, for example, across teams, locations, roles, role levels, and so on. And finally, the employee experiences KPI, that's simply showing the distribution of positive and negative emotions across the organization and across teams again. So as a summary, we can use the emotion behavior science to measure and understand the employees' emotional responses for the ongoing change. But we want to go deeper, of course, and understand the reasons. Why do people feel that way? So that brings us to wonder, what is the impact that the emotions will have on people's behavior? This is important since certain behaviors will lead to certain employee-related risks or opportunities. So how can we predict what the employee's behavior will be like? Happily, the emotion behavior science again gives us great tools. The good people in the University of Geneva have provided us with a map on the left, here giving scientific predictions how the different emotional responses impact employees' behavior. The model works in several dimensions, of which we are here showing only two for simplicity: negative to positive and disengage to engage. Through the science, we can understand the content of the various emotions and how they predict the behavior of the people will be impacted. For example, sadness on the bottom left relates to the feeling of having lost something valuable. And that feeling is quite negative and extremely disengaging, destroying any motivation and often making the person to slow down or drop out altogether. We don't stop there, however. With the science, we can not only understand the behaviors, but also influence the expected behaviors to seize the positive opportunities and to mitigate the risks. The science helps us to find context-sensitive actions to nudge the people towards the top right corner where the people are embracing the change. Let's look at some real data again. Here's our root cause analytics, showing real average data across selected client cases. So our AI-powered analytics can lead you from the emotion responses to practical things behind those emotions and predict how each of these matters is going to impact your employees' behavior. Each colorful bubble here indicates a certain matter that the people have brought up in the survey form. The size of each bubble indicates the significance of the matter, and the color codes refer to traffic lights to indicate risk levels. The location of each bubble talks about how each topic impacts the behavior of the people, like you saw on the previous page, from negative to positive and from disengage to engage. All this data emerges dynamically from the survey responses through the science and AI processing. What you can see in this picture are typical root causes calculated across aggregated data, as I said. So it's real-world data. So what does the data tell us as a trend? First of all, let's look at the typical issues or risks listed top right. The first observation here is that looking at people's experiences, the biggest issues are related to somewhat soft matters: leadership, communication, corporate culture, and so on. Hard quantitative facts such as employment, salary and benefits, and processes and tools, they may also be experienced negatively, but their significance is usually smaller. As we have discussed earlier, these matters all cause risks for employee turnover, productivity drop, and resistance to change. Then if we look at typical opportunity, predominantly future and business-related things. This is indicating that in general, people are excited to see the business thrive and their skills and careers along with it. You don't make employees super excited about salary expectations or new processes or tools or new premises. Also, it's worth noting, maybe a fun fact here, that we usually do not see good leadership or good communications popping up as great positive employee experiences. Although for sure great leadership and great communications do exist, and they are essential for the change, but they seem to be a little bit like a bass player in a music band, which is an important role, but nobody notices when they play correctly. Let's then move on and dive into impacts of the people-related risks and opportunities for the business. Why should I care if my employees have a terrific or terrible experience at work? As a very concrete tool, I'm using here a business case calculation to predict how much you are expected to lose or win, depending on how your employees will react to the ongoing business change. I'm only measuring the EX or employee experience business impact here. The client experience for sure has by itself a huge impact to business results, but quantifying that is beyond the scope of this presentation. So how much can you lose or avoid losing based on how your employees experience the business change? Our simple business case model here hangs on two very rough but credible data points. One from Deloitte talking about productivity loss upon change, and the other from Gallup talking about the cost of replacing an individual employee. So when you convert these quotes to proper formulas and fill in some trivial parameters, it's easy to calculate the total people risk level ranges as shown on bottom left. These are conservative estimates which indicate the likely expected financial losses for people-related issues in a typical scenario. These are not the maximum worst-case losses. The worst case is that you lose the whole business and everything you have invested to it. As we shall see later, bad EX is promoting bad client experience, which will cost you even more. Then let's see how all this looks to the most important person in the room, the client. It's been known for ages that bad employee experience contributes to bad customer experience. It's not the only factor, of course, but it has a significant contribution. I have been interested in understanding the causality, how it happens. So let's look at some practical mechanisms how one bad thing leads to another. The strength of linking between EX and CX depends on the industry and the business. A famous counterexample is that Amazon may have a wonderful customer experience through its online platform, while the employee experience might not be ideal. But in many businesses, there is a strong link, especially in people or knowledge-intensive industries where people create value and people deliver value. I'm here looking at the negative side of things, but the opposite is, of course, equally true. A great EX contributes to great CX. I think these mechanisms from EX to CX and to profitability and growth, they are logical and interesting, so let's take a closer look. So first of all, people feeling negatively in the front line will for sure spread bad emotions. The clients will notice and their trust and satisfaction will diminish. That's no surprise, right? You can only offer your best game when you are excited about your work. And then secondly, loss of experienced talent is an obvious way how to destroy your client relationship and your business. By losing your key people, you lose the customer relationship memory and the customer's trust for sure. Thirdly, we talked about the productivity loss upon business change earlier, caused by demotivated employees. Slow responses and delayed deliverables are clearly negative experiences for the customer. And then especially for complex client solutions, deliveries may require cross-team collaboration. Business changes may lead to working in silos, at least temporarily, which can disrupt unified messaging and smooth delivery to the customer. And then we have the brand ambassadorship, either good or bad. Employees who don't feel appreciated at work will surely talk about this in public. Your customers will no doubt become aware of the negative aura surrounding your company. And then flexibility may be the first casualty of negative employee sentiment. Your clients will see your company as bureaucratic operation, not willing to go the extra mile to fulfill their needs. Finally, not many operations can stay stagnant and still thrive. Negatively feeling employees are unlikely to suggest improvements. Your clients will notice this soon as you will be lagging behind the more innovative competition. But things are even worse than that, since there is a feedback loop. Poor customer experience further worsens the employee experience through unhappy clients, more escalations, and worsening business problems. It's really an awful spiral heading to a completely wrong direction. But as I said, fortunately, all of this works the other way around too. Excited employees, they spread good vibes in the front line, they innovate, they keep the productivity and flexibility high, collaborate well, and they thrive as brand ambassadors. I have certainly seen a very positive feedback loop spiraling the business up. Finally, let's talk about how you can intervene in early stages to mitigate the risks and seize the opportunities. I have already shown how to understand the people, risks, and opportunity landscape during the change with help of emotion behavior science and AI. But how can we then find appropriate actions to manage the issues and use the positive levers? The root cause analytics and other insights I was showing to you earlier, is that actionable? Our algorithms with the included change process intelligence and AI come again to help. This page highlights what kind of deliverables our solution provides in terms of action recommendations. The AI enables us, first of all, to weigh and prioritize both the opportunities and the risks arising from the employee responses. On the left, you can see examples of those with some real employee comments to illustrate each matter. Then in the middle, you can see two wide-angle views about what the data is telling to us. The narrative is explaining what's happening here in this transformation. What's the big picture? What are the most striking observations? Sometimes even, what is it that we are not seeing here in this case? And then the actions summary is a list of the top recommendations. You should consider doing these actions at least with high priority to mitigate the observed risks and leverage the opportunities. The next page will show actually some real-world examples of these two deliverables. Then on the right, we have more detailed list of action cards for certain use cases, actions that you should consider in your specific circumstances. All of this is dynamic based on the survey results and driven by our algorithms based on the emotion behavior science and powered by AI, and finally also curated by a professional human. Let's take a couple of simple further real-world examples here. This is again combined data from selected real client cases with full anonymity. You can see here some typical high-level deliverables, how our analytics first summarizes the current situation or narrative, breaking it up to 5 key points. In this case, the analysis explains what's going on, what are the key things to note, what makes this transformation unique. So you will get the big picture, right? And then on the right, a list of top action recommendations. What are the key recommendations that our analytics suggests to consider, as I have said, to mitigate the risks and leverage the opportunities? These are real examples. The actual deliverables are different every time, going deeper based on the data and even the stage of the transformation. We have now walked through this inevitable process end to end, how the business change creates employees' emotional responses which impact their behavior. We can understand that through the science. This creates people-related risks and opportunities which we really should address and we can address by intervening in early stage with the right tools, including AI. The employee experience has a significant practical further impact on the customer experience, which again creates more risks, but fortunately also more opportunities. All this will cause a significant business impact all the way to your business growth and profitability. And as a quick final add, I want to remind that our solution, People Impact Analytics, includes all this in an easy-to-use package. We sell and deploy the service all around the world, directly to the clients and also through the partners. So our time is pretty much up, 29 minutes, that's great. Thanks for your interest once again. Please do contact me if you want to talk about these matters more. I hope to talk to you again soon. We will also continue running our webinars, usually once a month, so we will keep you posted. Stay tuned. So Maria, back to you, please.
Thank you, Petri, for a very interesting presentation. So this concludes our webinar. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you and bye.
Thanks to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.